Few U.S. capitals are as closely tied to the fight over slavery as Topeka, Kansas. Founded in the midst of national chaos, born out of a political uprising, and hardened by conflict, Topeka wasn't just chosen as a capital. It was declared one, in defiance of federal authority. This is the story of how Topeka became the capital of Kansas, and how a small anti-slavery settlement helped shift the course of American history. In 1854, Congress passed the Kansas-Nebraska Act, allowing settlers in those territories to decide whether to permit slavery, a policy called popular sovereignty. Almost immediately, Kansas became a battleground. Pro-slavery and anti-slavery settlers flooded into the region, trying to tip the vote. Violence erupted across the territory, in a period known as Bleeding Kansas. Amid this turmoil, multiple rival governments were formed. One, based in Lecompton, supported slavery. Another, centered in Topeka, was anti-slavery, and that's where our story begins. Topeka was founded in 1854 by 9 anti-slavery settlers from the New England Emigrant Aid Company. They chose the site for its location along the Kansas River, which made it a potential hub for trade and transport. In 1855, Topeka's leaders called a constitutional convention and drafted the Topeka Constitution, which banned slavery and claimed to represent the true government of Kansas Territory. The U.S. Congress rejected it, but the city of Topeka had already declared itself the capital of Free State Kansas. The conflict in Kansas continued for several more years, as pro-slavery and anti-slavery forces clashed in towns like Lawrence and Osawatomie. Eventually, the national tide turned. In 1859, delegates met in Wyandotte, near present-day Kansas City, and drafted a new anti-slavery state constitution. It was approved, and in 1861, Kansas entered the Union as a free state. Topeka, having been the seat of the Free State movement, was chosen as the official capital, both for symbolic reasons and because it already had the foundations of government in place. Its central location and river access also helped. Though small, Topeka was viewed as a manageable and neutral choice amid regional rivalries. Once selected as the capital, Topeka needed a proper capitol building. Construction on the Kansas State House began in 1866, 5 years after statehood, and took more than 37 years to complete. The building was designed in a classical style and constructed with native limestone. Its copper dome rises 304 feet above ground and is topped with a statue known as Ad Astra, depicting a Kansas warrior pointing his arrow toward the North Star. Inside the Capitol, murals and sculptures tell the story of Kansas's frontier history, including John Stuart Curry's famous painting of abolitionist John Brown, who led anti-slavery raids in Kansas Territory. Today, the State House anchors downtown Topeka and remains one of the most architecturally significant buildings in the Midwest. Topeka is the 5th largest city in Kansas, with a population of around 125,000. It remains the center of state government and a symbol of Kansas's political independence. It's also remembered for another landmark in civil rights history. In 1954, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled on Brown v. Board of Education of Topeka, declaring racial segregation in public schools unconstitutional. The case made Topeka a permanent part of the civil rights narrative. Fun facts: the name Topeka is a Kansa Osage word meaning a good place to dig potatoes. The Capitol Dome is one of only a few in the U.S. you can climb to the top of via a 296-step spiral staircase. Topeka briefly changed its name to Google, Kansas, in 2010 as part of a bid to attract high-speed internet investment. From its roots in rebellion to its legacy in civil rights, Topeka has always stood at the intersection of politics and principle. It wasn't handed the title of capital, it fought for it. Next up in our state capital series, Frankfort, Kentucky, a surprisingly small capital with a big story tied to rivers, rivalries, and bourbon.